In the remote highlands of South Sulawesi, Indonesia, where mist rolls across ancient stone graves and the mountains seem to inhale and exhale like living creatures, there exists a village unlike any other on earth, a place where the boundary between the living and the dead is not a line, but a door. A door that opens every few years, sometimes by human hands, and sometimes, according to locals, by the dead themselves. Tonight's dark science investigation takes us into the heart of Toraja, a land where funeral rituals defy biology, where corpses do not simply rest beneath the earth, and where one name has echoed through generations with a mixture of fear, reverence, and disbelief. They call him the Immortal Man, a man who, according to countless eyewitnesses, walked long after death, a man whose body never decomposed the way it should have, a man who, even decades after being buried, still had flesh, still had hair, and still appeared to listen. Some say he was cursed. Some say he was blessed. And others whisper that the spirits of Toraja, ancient ancestral forces, refused to let him leave the world of the living. But before we dive into the chilling story of the Immortal Man, we must understand the land that created him. Toraja is not a place of simple superstition. It is a society built on rituals older than recorded history. And the most terrifying of all these rituals is one that challenges science, anthropology, and every assumption modern humans have about death. The ritual is called Manene, the ceremony of the walking dead. To reach Toraja, you journey through winding mountain roads carved into sheer cliffs, where villages perch like wooden nests above valleys of green rice terraces. Buffalo roam the hillsides, their long curved horns glistening in the damp air. And everywhere, absolutely everywhere, you see death, not as something hidden or feared, but as a part of daily life. Wooden effigies called tau stand atop stone graves, carved in the likeness of the dead. Families speak to them, feed them, and maintain them. Elaborate funerals last days, even weeks, involving hundreds of villagers and as many buffalo as a family can afford. Some families go into decades of debt for a single funeral, because in Toraja, sending someone to the afterlife is the most important duty the living can perform. But the strangest belief of all, the one that challenges the entire world's understanding of death, is this. In Toraja, people do not die immediately. When a person takes their last breath, the family does not consider them dead. They are called Tumakua, the sick one. They remain inside the house, clothed, cleaned, and spoken to every day, sometimes for months, sometimes for years. They are fed symbolic meals, offered cigarettes, and even included in family conversations. Only when the funeral is held, often long after the person has physically died, are they considered truly dead. This unique relationship with death forms the backbone of Manene, the ritual that both fascinates and terrifies outsiders. And it is during this ritual that the legend of the Immortal Man began. Every few years, usually in August, families return to their ancestral graves. These graves are not buried under soil, but carved into cliffs, caves, or large stone chambers. Inside rest the mummified bodies of their ancestors, wrapped in cloth and dressed in clothing that, surprisingly, often remains intact. During Manene, these bodies are removed from their graves, lovingly, gently, one bone at a time if necessary. They are cleaned with brushes, wiped with traditional oils, and dressed in fresh clothing. Their hair is trimmed, their nails are cleaned, their faces, hollowed yet expressive, are dusted off as though they were statues. Then comes the part that sends shivers down the spine of anyone unfamiliar with Toraja. The dead are made to stand, often with support, sometimes without, and families pose for photos with them. Children place sunglasses on them. Mothers lean their heads against them. And some corpses, according to multiple villagers, appear to lean back. But the Immortal Man, his story is far beyond the ordinary. His name was Limbang Pabate, though some versions of the story use different names, depending on the village where the tale is told. But one thing is consistent in all accounts. He died sometime in the late 1800s, long before modern preservation techniques reached these mountains. His family placed him inside the ancestral grave, a limestone chamber carved by hand, sealed with wooden beams, and for several years, nothing unusual happened. Until, the rains came. A landslide struck the area, cracking open the chamber. Villagers discovered that his coffin had shifted, and his body had tumbled slightly out of place. But when they looked closer, they realized something that should have been impossible. His body had not decayed at all. No rot, no insect activity, no collapse of the face or chest. His skin had dried into a leathery, preserved state, far better than other corpses buried in similar conditions. The villagers repaired the grave and sealed it again. But months later, something even stranger occurred. Multiple villagers reported seeing a man walking along the mountain path at dusk. A man dressed in traditional Toraja clothing. A man with skin that looked impossibly dry and taut. A man who did not speak, but walked with slow, deliberate steps in the direction of his home village. Some fled. Some fainted. Some followed from a distance. When the family checked the grave the next morning, the coffin was open again, and the body was covered with dust and dirt, as though it had walked. Word spread quickly, and from that day forward, the villagers called him Tau Sama, the man who does not die. The immortal man. Skeptics tried to explain away the stories. Someone moved the body. It's just superstition. It's a misunderstanding. But fear is persistent, and every few years, the same pattern repeated. Grave sealed. Grave found open. Body slightly repositioned. Footprints, small, shallow, but human, leading away from the grave. Anthropologists have long debated the authenticity of these stories, but the villagers insist on one thing with absolute certainty. The immortal man walked because his spirit never left his body. His family, terrified yet devoted, decided to treat him with even greater reverence. And when Manene season came, they performed the ritual on him with exceptional care. That's when the next miracle occurred, one documented by multiple families across the region. When they lifted his body, the immortal man's joints bent. Not rigid like other corpses. Not fragile or frozen, but flexible, like dried leather that had never fully hardened. In rare moments, some claimed his fingers twitched. Others said his head shifted slightly, as if acknowledging their presence. A few, shaken to the core, swore that when they whispered his old name into his ear, he exhaled a faint breath, dry, hollow, like ancient wind escaping from a crack in a cave. Western scientists eventually heard the rumors and made their way to Toraja. Some tried to access the graves, but families refused, fearing the spirits would punish them. But one anthropologist, William Herring, claimed to have inspected the immortal man during a Manene ceremony in the 1970s. His notes, now stored in a university archive, describe the body in unsettling detail. The corpse displays no signs of advanced decomposition. The abdominal cavity is intact. Skin is leathery yet pliable. The joints retain a surprising range of motion. This level of preservation is not comparable to natural mummification alone. Dr. Herring believed that the high altitude, mineral-rich caves, and consistent temperature might have contributed. But he also admitted something else. The flexibility is anomalous. I cannot explain it. Villagers, however, had their own explanation, one rooted in Toraja mythology. Some people, they say, are born with a spirit too powerful to die. These people become, Tamiya, the ones who remain. And the immortal man, according to every family story, was one of them. As decades passed, something even more extraordinary happened. The body, instead of deteriorating, seemed to settle into a stable, preserved form. His skin darkened into a deep mahogany. His face, though hollow, retained a surprising sharpness, and his hair, black, coarse, and long, continued to cling to his scalp. During Manene, villagers photographed him using early film cameras. In some photos, his eyes, though shrunken, appeared to glisten as if moist. In others, his mouth is slightly more open, or slightly more closed, than the year before. Some of these photos exist today in private family collections. Anthropologists debate their authenticity. Villagers insist they are real. The legend became so widespread that Toraja locals started using the immortal man as a warning. Do not disrespect the dead, or they will not forget you. Do not disturb the spirits, or they will follow you home. And most chilling, if someone's heart remains unfinished, their feet will keep walking. But the most terrifying part of this story, the part that has shaken modern researchers to their core, is an incident that occurred during a Manene ceremony in 1996. The family lifted the immortal man from his chamber, just as they had done for decades. They brushed the dust from his cheeks, changed his shirt, adjusted his sarong, and prepared to take a family photograph. A young boy, about 10 years old, was asked to hold the body steady. And then, in front of at least 30 witnesses, the body turned its head, very slowly, toward the boy. Not a wind, not a slip, not an accident of gravity, but a deliberate movement, measured, heavy, precise. The boy screamed. Several adults collapsed. The camera dropped to the ground. The family rushed forward, terrified, and placed the body back inside the stone chamber. They sealed it instantly, and from that year onward, they refused to bring the immortal man out again. In their words, his spirit was tired. We should have let him rest. But he did not want to rest. He wanted to walk. Since then, rumors have persisted that people still see his silhouette at dusk, moving slowly along the ridge above the village. Not often, just once every few years, usually around the time of Manene. A tall, thin figure, walking with the unmistakable gait of someone whose legs have not bent normally for decades. Sometimes he appears near the old family home. Sometimes along the buffalo fields. Sometimes near the cliff graves. And always, he disappears before anyone can approach. The villagers know better than to follow. Because in Toraja, the dead are not feared. But the restless dead, the ones who choose not to sleep, are something else entirely. This is where modern science struggles the most. How does a body survive more than a century without decomposing? How does it retain joint movement? How does it shift positions inside a sealed grave? Scientists have tried to explain it with theories. Temperature stability, airflow within limestone, natural desiccation, unique mineral content, bacterial inhibition, termite absence. But none of these factors explain the movements. The reopened grave, the repeated repositioning, the head turning. Anthropologists eventually stopped trying to study the immortal man, not because they lost interest, but because the villagers would no longer allow outsiders to come close. They believed the attention was disturbing the spirits, and that the immortal man had shown clear signs of disapproval. Signs that, to them, were warnings. And so the legend lives on. Passed from grandparents to grandchildren, whispered during storms, shared quietly by firelight, and spoken with utmost seriousness every time Manene approaches. Children are told not to wander near the old ridge at dusk. Teenagers are told not to whistle near the stone graves. Adults are told not to speak the immortal man's name after dark. Not because he is evil, but because he is awake. In the Toraja worldview, spirits can linger for many reasons. Unfinished duties, unresolved grudges, powerful ancestral bonds, or simply a refusal to let go. And the immortal man, according to local belief, embodied all of these.